you doing?
I am miming something. For you. What's
Oh, ice cream, yeah.
Welcome to Curious World History. I am Colleen.
And I'm Albert.
And today we're going to do a different kind of thing than we've done before, right?
Yeah.
We are not going to be talking about a major historical event or a disaster or a tragedy. We're going to be talking about a job that no longer exists.
Yeah.
And which job are we going to talk about?
The milkman.
He's an institution in the American home, our milkman. A person we sort of take for granted, but a friend we couldn't get along without.
The milkman! Now, fun fact, who do you know who actually had a milkman?
You.
That's right. When I was a child, I had a milkman. It turns out that they delivered milk in my hometown of Bristol, Connecticut until 1987.
Whoa.
So it's pretty exciting. And actually, the company that delivered milk to us was named Guida Siebert Dairy. And what they did is, as the milkman retired, they just phased it out. So they didn't shut it down all the way. They just, like, as one milkman retired, like Fred retires, then nobody takes Fred's job after that. So, and now what's interesting is that company had been around since 1886.
Whoa.
I know. And now it's part of Garlic Farms, which we buy milk from Garlic Farms a lot. So it's pretty interesting. Okay. So I'm excited. Now, tell me what drew you to the idea of talking about milkmen, because you were the one who added this.
Yeah. So I was watching something and I came across, it was like a show, something, it was like old jobs, and one of the jobs was the milkman.
Yeah. And that drew you in? Well, cool. So now you and I both did our research, as we always do. So now, why don't you start and tell me what you learned?
So, before, like, refrigeration, there was a milkman in your, like, neighborhood or town, and I think it was only men, right?
For the most part, yeah. I haven't seen anything about women who were milk delivery people.
Yeah.
I'm sure there may have been towns or times, like if the milkman wasn't feeling well, maybe his wife took over or his sister or something like that.
So he would deliver milk to, like, porches and stuff, and some houses had like mini, like, freezers or something that they would put the milk in, and then they would bring it inside.
So the interesting thing is that because there was no refrigeration, which is what led to the milk delivery initially, they really didn't have a way, like a freezer outside. So the box that we had was like a metal box that had the inside was almost like a cooler.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, right. So it was insulated, but there was no actual refrigeration happening. So do you know what era that was when that happened? It was actually the 1800s. So, in part of the reason was because in that time when people started they moved away from rural areas. What does rural mean?
Like, with not that many people?
Yeah, in farming.
Yeah.
Right? So it was agriculture, which means farming. So when people started moving toward urban areas, which means what?
Like cities.
That's right. When they started moving toward the cities, they didn't have their cows anymore.
Yeah.
Right? And their neighbors didn't have cows. So this was a way that they could get fresh milk regularly. So it started in the 1800s, which is pretty interesting. And this was happening around the world, by the way, because this movement toward the cities probably had to do with industrialization. So they're building factories and things like that, right? So I was reading that U.S., U.K., Canada, New Zealand, there were others too. They were all going through this. So that's interesting. And so in the beginning, did you read whether or not it was pasteurized milk?
I did not read about that.
So it was raw milk in the beginning, which means they hadn't gone through like the process that makes the milk safer for everybody. So sometimes people would get sick. But not all the time, right? Because people sometimes have raw milk today too. But raw milk, sometimes like bacteria and stuff will grow in there, and that can make you very, very sick. So what else did you learn?
So in the early 1800s.
1800s?
Yeah,
Okay.
milk was often laid out of large metal cans directly into customers'
Right, they
containers.
ladled it out. So in
Yeah.
other words, it would be like a big container of milk, right? Like a big, it could be a wood barrel or another kind of barrel. And then they would ride into town, and what would they use typically? They didn't have cars back then.
No, they used like the horses
That's
and
right.
like wagons.
That's right. So the milkman or maybe milkwoman, we don't know, would come through with the wagon, maybe drawn by a horse, maybe not, and they would ladle and like kind of like a big scoop. And they would scoop it into a container for people to have, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they weren't putting it in bottles in the beginning.
Yeah, and it was outlawed.
Why was that?
Because like to hygiene concerns.
Hygiene's
Yeah,
concerns. That's right. So do you know what hygiene is?
Like clean.
That's right. It wasn't very clean to do it that way. So they said nobody's doing that anymore. So what did they do instead?
So they put it in glass bottles.
That's right. So in the beginning, they had there were two different kinds of milk bottles that changed things. Did you read about those?
No.
So the first one was called the Lester jar. So the Lester jar was patented in 1878 by George Henry Lester. It was the first glass milk bottle to be patented, but it was a capless design, meaning the milk was exposed to the environment during delivery.
Oh.
So that's a little risky, right?
Probably spill out.
It would spill out, or if it can go out, what can happen?
So things can go in.
That's right. Things can go in, including bacteria and other things. So then the next one, which was shortly after that, so this is only very quickly afterward, within the same time frame, the late 1870s, the glass milk bottle by Thatcher was created. That was by Dr. Henry Thatcher, and that's the one where they were actually putting a cap on it. And Thatcher apparently had witnessed a milkman wiping the neck of a milk can with a dirty rag, and he was horrified by the lack of hygiene. So he said, I'm going to make a bottle, and that bottle's going to have a cap on it, and that way we're not wiping the edges of things.
So for like breakfast,
that's right.
Kids or parents won't get.
That's right. And it could be sealed and sanitized, which they thought was a good idea, right? So to make it clean. But they had one problem with those. Do you know? Because they had a foil cap in the beginning, not like a metal cap. It was like foil, almost like tin foil. Want to guess what happened with that?
It broke?
Kind of. Birds would peck at it. There were certain kinds of birds that loved to peck at them, so they eventually had to create a different kind of cap for them. So now tell me what else you learned.
So like the golden ages were the late 1800s and the mid 1900s.
That's right.
Like the milk, they would like produce it.
They produced a lot of it. Yep. Okay, so tell me more.
And when they were done, they would leave it out. So
when they were done with what?
The milk. They would leave it out.
So family's done with it.
Yeah. So they would leave it out, and they would I think the milkman would take it.
Come and get the bottle.
Yeah, and reuse it. And they left coins.
So that's how they paid?
In the empty bottles.
Oh.
Or the milk box.
Oh, interesting. And how did they give their order? Did you read about that?
No.
They would sometimes leave, they would write it down, a note, what they needed, and then they would leave that in the box, or they would leave it inside the bottle, and that way the milkman would know what they needed next time, because they didn't always just deliver milk. Did you hear that? So these were dairy farms and dairy facilities, so they also sold other kinds of dairy and delivered it. Like, what other kinds of dairy do you and I eat?
Cheese.
What else?
Milk. I mean yogurt.
Yogurt, maybe. And what else? What's your favorite food? Maybe one of them.
Cheese. What are you doing?
I am miming something. I am miming something for you. What's
Oh,
your
ice cream. Yeah.
ice cream? They would
Yeah.
do ice cream. They also did butter too.
Mhm.
Pretty cool. So what else did you learn?
So their daily routine. They would like start before dawn
Mm-hmm.
at a dairy depot.
Mm-hmm.
And they would load crates of milk, cream, butter, and sometimes eggs and bread or cheese. And then the milkman, they can complete 100 to 150 deliveries a morning.
Mm-hmm.
And they would swap empty bottles for new ones.
Mm-hmm.
And they would return to the depot.
Depot?
Yeah, to clean
Nice.
and sterilize bottles for free use.
Mm-hmm. So in other words, the milkman's responsible for quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
So he's loading up in the morning with the deliveries he has to make. So he's checking all the orders that he got the day before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Loading up the truck and making sure that every order is set up for his clients. And then he's making the deliveries. He's capturing the empty bottles and the orders for the next day, bringing everything back so it can be cleaned and sterilized and loading up. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so, did you read about how they were doing those deliveries? Was he doing it on foot? Was he doing it with a horse? This is like the 1900s, right? So how is he making these deliveries?
I think by horse-drawn carts.
In the beginning?
Yeah.
Horse-drawn carts. Okay. And then what about after that?
They use like trucks.
Yeah, trucks, a milk truck. So that's what I remember was a milk truck. You know, it is interesting. There is a thing called a milk float.
What?
A milk float was something that happened in the UK. It was a small, typically electric vehicle, so like really small, not the size of like a truck that we would see today. And he would deliver milk door to door with the milk float, which is electric. And
With a remote control?
no, it was driven. So almost like imagine a golf cart, but covered and a little bit bigger, right? So it was low speed, didn't go very fast. It had a quiet motor, so they didn't disturb people when they made those early morning runs. Nobody would hear the truck. And so it was pretty interesting. They're neat looking vehicles, and some of them are still around. So I thought that was pretty cool. So what else can you tell me about the milkman?
So
they use hand-drawn carts and horse-drawn carriages in the beginning.
Yeah. And
then later on it was trucks.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also like a famous milkman.
Was there?
I read about. I'm not going to pronounce his name.
Okay, let's try. I'll see if I can give
yeah.
it a shot. Name was Verghese Kurian, maybe?
Yeah.
Who was?
He was the milkman of India.
Of India? Okay.
And he was a dairy engineer and social and entrepreneur.
Entrepreneur, yes. What is an entrepreneur, do you know?
I forgot, yeah.
Someone who starts their own business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it was from 1921 to 2012. And his achievements were he spearheaded India's White Revolution, turning the nation from milk deficient into the world's largest milk producer by 1990.
So India became the world's largest milk producer?
Yeah, by 1998.
That's amazing. And I heard something else about India that I thought was interesting, is that they still have milk delivery today and more prevalent than we have it here. So in the United States and Canada and in parts of Europe, there's milk delivery, but it's kind of smaller operations. Yeah. It's not like the big companies. It tends to be local farms and stuff. And so India persisted. They continued to have milk delivery, which I thought was pretty interesting.
And he founded the AMOL cooperative, giving farmer-owned cooperative.
It's a farmer cooperative. So do you know what that means?
No.
So this is a pretty cool thing. A farmer's cooperative, a co-op, they call it. It's a market that sells goods from lots of different farmers. And that way, each farmer doesn't have to have their own shop. They bring it to a shop where they all have a share, they all own shares of it, or they all somehow benefit from it. And then they all use that one shop to sell their stuff. Pretty cool.
And he led the National Dairy Development Board, NDDB, to scale this cooperative model across India.
That's awesome.
And he
I never heard of him.
honored
He got the, let's see, I'm going to help you with this one. He was honored with prestigious awards such as the Ramon Magsaysay Award in 1964, the World Food Prize in 1989, and India's Padma Vibhushan in 1999. Now, I'm going to have to also right now say I'm going to apologize to any of our listeners who are Indian, because neither of us speak any of the languages that are spoken in India.
Yeah.
And so therefore we may have just butchered that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we apologize for that if that's the case. But we wanted to honor him by making sure that we said what happened. Okay, what else?
So the decline of the milkman was 1950s to 1980s. So the main reasons were families could get like home refrigeration.
That's right.
And there were supermarkets.
Yep.
Which milk became cheaper. And labor costs.
Yeah, because the cost of having someone do that kind of delivery in that small quantity didn't make sense. So you know what's really interesting? You and I watched a show about refrigeration and how it affected the homes, right? It was a brief one, but so do you remember before we had mechanical refrigeration? In other words, right now, we plug our refrigerator and our freezer, like most families do. We plug it into the wall, and electricity helps. It has a whole coolant system in there, and it keeps everything cold, right? Which is why if the power goes out, you don't open your refrigerator door because you want to keep everything as cold as possible until the power comes back on. Do you remember what we saw, how they used to have refrigeration?
Ice boxes?
That's right. They called it an ice box. That's exactly right. And they would get an ice delivery, kind of like the milkman. So it would start by them harvesting the ice in lakes, freshwater lakes,
and
like in ponds. Yeah. And we'll talk about that in another episode because you and I were both wowed by that.
They're called like ice.
They were called ice boxes, and then there were ice houses. Right, where they stored the ice for a long period of time. It was really fascinating.
And also car ownership. A lot of people got cars.
That's right. So now if people have cars, they can get to those grocery stores that are not very close by, right? Such a good point. Was there anything else that you learned about the milkman that you wanted to share?
No.
I thought there was something interesting. Not only did people rely on the milkman to deliver milk and stuff.
He was basically like a police officer.
Kind of.
He protected the neighborhood, kind of.
They call it the neighborhood watch, right? So he did that. Sometimes they would help deliver babies if they were there and someone was giving birth. If they noticed house fires, they would sound an alarm.
They were basically, like, they did everything.
That's right. They would check on elderly people. They were just kind of like your community helper, which I thought was really cool. As a matter of fact, they were so popular that I found something that we'll put a link to.
Like,
there were books about them.
Songs.
There were songs. There was a board game that I found. So it was called the Merry Milkman that everybody used. And the line says it was hours and hours of educational creative play for children ages 4 to 10.
It looks very like old-fashioned.
It does look old-fashioned. It looks kind of like the 50s, right? The 1950s. So that's pretty wild.
Cloverland Dairy products are always close at hand. At your own front door, at the corner store, look for the Cloverland Dairy brand.
Well, this is really interesting. Is there anything else we should add before we wrap today's show?
We got new mics.
We got
mics.
That's right. We got mics, period.
Yeah.
Not even new mics, because before we were just using what was in the computer. So we'll have to see how the sound comes out, but I'm pretty excited.
And shout out to Sweetwater.
Sweetwater is where we got our mics. Shout out to those guys who were so great. And speaking of milkmen and their great customer service, Sweetwater called to say thank you for the order.
And they gave us like a bag of candy.
That's right. They gave us a bag of candy. I thought that was pretty cool. So if anybody needs mics or any kind of audio equipment, maybe shop at Sweetwater. All right. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. This is Curious World History.